U.S. President Donald Trump spoke with reporters in the Oval Office Monday evening about his phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier in the day, telling the press, "I do believe he wants to end it." According to Associated Press in a social media post shortly after separate calls with the leaders of both countries, Trump said Russia and Ukraine will immediately begin ceasefire negotiations. Still, the conversations did not appear to yield a major breakthrough. Later speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, he noted the process has got very big egos involved, I tell you. Big egos involved. But I think something's going to happen and, if it doesn't I'd just back away and they have to keep going, Trump said. This was a European situation. It should have remained a European situation. Trump also said he told Putin, "We've got to get going." I said, "When are we going to end this, Vladimir? I've known him for a long time now." I said, "When are we gonna end this bloodshed, this bloodbath? It's a bloodbath. And I do believe he wants to end it," Trump said. The president also told reporters the Vatican expressed interest in hosting the negotiations, but there was no immediate confirmation that any talks had been scheduled.
On your call with President Putin today,
Yeah.
You'd mentioned that the Pope would like to take a role potentially in mediating these talks. Does that mean that the U.S. is taking a step back from...
No. I think it would be great to have it at the Vatican. Maybe it would have some extra significance. And I saw that it was discussed yesterday, so I thought, and people told me that they'd be honored to do it. I would imagine they would be. So, no, I think it would be maybe helpful. There's tremendous bitterness, anger, and I think maybe that could help some of that anger. So having it at the Vatican would be, in Rome, would be I think it would be a great idea. Thank you.
You said last week that you thought nothing was going to happen, no advances would be made until you and Putin got together. Do you still feel that way?
I think something's going to happen. It's a got very big egos involved, I tell you. Big egos involved, but I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'd just back away and they're going to have to keep going. Again, this was a European situation. It should have remained a European situation.
Did you ask President Putin to meet with you?
About what?
About Ukraine.
Of course I did. I talked to him about it. I said, when are we going to end this, Vladimir? I know him for a long time now. I said, when are we going to end this bloodshed, this bloodbath? It's a bloodbath. And I do believe he wants to end it. You know, when I made the call, I told the people last night, I spoke to the heads of the different countries. But I said to them, we got to get going. And I did say also, if I thought that you couldn't do it, I'd step away, because what are you going to do? We don't have boots on the ground. We wouldn't have boots on the ground. But we do have a big stake.
You previously on Truth Social implored President Putin to stop. You wrote Vladimir stop, and he didn't stop, quite the contrary. I'm curious, did you bring that up on your call with him today?
No, I didn't bring that up. But I did say, it's time, you got to stop this thing. And I believe he wants to stop. Look, I would be, I think, very able to tell whether or not he wanted to or what. I thought there was a very good chance, like a 50-50 chance, that he would say, I want to take the whole thing. I didn't know what he was going to say. And then they have a different kind of a problem. But I believe he wants to stop. Pretty sure.
Just now about backing away or walking away if it looks like it's going to be an intractable problem. Do you have a red line in your head of what would cause you to back away? And
yeah, in my head, but not something I'm going to announce. But yeah, definitely in my head I do, yeah. Because this isn't our war. This is not my war. This is not the war. I mean, we got ourselves entangled in something that we shouldn't have been involved in. And we would have been a lot better off, and maybe the whole thing would have been better off, because it can't be much worse. It's a real mess. It's a death trap. Exactly. So I think that, yeah, I would say I do have a certain line, but I don't want to say what that line is, because I think it makes the negotiation even more difficult than it is. Yes, please.
President Zelenski of Ukraine says that the Ukrainians are ready for a ceasefire. They're ready for peace negotiations. In your mind, is Ukraine doing enough to get this peace?
I'd rather tell you in about 2 weeks from now, because I can't say yes or no. I think, look, he's a strong person. Zelensky, a strong guy, and he's not the easiest person to deal with. But I think that he wants to stop. He's, you know, not. It's a very bad thing that's happening over there. I think he wants to stop, but I could answer that question better in 2 weeks or 4 weeks from now. I hope the answer is that he wants to get it solved. I want to thank everybody very much.
President Donald Trump is frustrated by both Russia and Ukraine ahead of separate calls Monday with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. He's grown weary and frustrated with both sides of the conflict, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt told reporters Monday morning. He has made it clear to both sides that he wants to see a peaceful resolution and ceasefire as soon as possible. According to Associated Press, Trump's call with Putin is set to take place around 10 a.m. to be followed by his conversation with Zelensky. Trump is hoping that the separate phone will make progress toward a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. Trump expressed his hopes for a productive day, Monday, and a ceasefire, in a social media post over the weekend. His effort will also include calls to NATO leaders.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us early today. We have a very busy day.
As of today, we are still funding both Israel's and Ukraine's wars. So can Americans expect to finally be done financing foreign wars at some point? Do you consider that one of the president's goals?
As you all know, the president will be speaking with Putin at 10 o'clock. He plans to call President Zelensky when that call concludes. I spoke to the president about that call at 10 o'clock. I don't want to get ahead of those very important conversations, but of course you will hear directly from the president or me after those calls conclude today. So you can expect that. As for Israel and Gaza, the president continues to not only himself, but his national security team engage in talks on both sides of this conflict. The president made it very clear to Hamas that he wanted to see all hostages released. And last week, when we were flying out of town, there was great news on that front with the return of Eden Alexander, who is the last remaining hostage in Gaza. So to answer your question, the president is always thinking about the American people, the American taxpayer first. He wants these conflicts to end, not just to save money, but most importantly, to save lives. When the One Big Beautiful Bill passes, we will replace the current antiquated system. The FAA will enhance safety in our skies, reduce delays, and power the future of air travel in the United States.
Is the goal to get Putin to agree to a ceasefire? Is the goal to lead to some sort of in-person negotiations with Putin and the president?
Well, I think, again, we'll see how the call goes, and the president has made it clear his goal is to see a ceasefire and to see this conflict come to an end. And he's grown weary and frustrated with both sides of the conflict. The president and his team have put an enormous amount of effort in solving this very complicated war that, again, began because of the last administration's weakness.
Does he still want to meet Putin personally?
I think the president would certainly be open to that, but let's see how this call goes today.
What's the status of the secondary sanctions package? The president's been talking about that. You haven't imposed them yet, but is that still on the table?
I think everything's on the table, yes, and again, I won't get ahead of the president in any commitments or decisions, but certainly it's something he's been looking at and discussing. The president and his team have put an enormous amount of effort in solving this very complicated war that, again, began because of the last administration's weakness.
Does he still want to meet Putin personally?
I think the president would certainly be open to that, but let's see how this call goes.